All right, so let's get into this. And this was an interesting topic as I was rolling through the Week 1 matchups.
Right.
Week 1 is fast approaching. We are now basically a month away from Texas high school football season.
Where does the time go, Greg?
Hey, you know
Where
what?
does the time go?
I'm okay with that because I like football. I don't know if I've made that clear enough.
I'm realizing, I don't know about you, what your mentality is on this. You get basically 2 windows to take a breath with this job, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the stretch from like January to March, and then you have when the magazine is done and out until basically now.
Yes, that's basically it. I would even say coaching convention because for me,
coaching convention is probably, you're right. That's like the season
that's the
is
kickoff.
here.
Yeah, that's for me. That's the kickoff. And I was telling people at coaching convention. Talking to Susan Elsa, Dr. Susan Elsa, our friend, the athletic director of UIL, I was saying, she was like, how are you doing? Stuff like that. How's the summer been? And I just told her, I was like, the thing is, coaching convention is fun, and I love seeing all these coaches and stuff. But I know this is the surefire way that the storms are brewing, and it's a moving in. So now we've got Week 1 games coming up, and there are an inordinate, I would say, amount. Week 1 is when you will see more teams from Texas playing teams from outside the state of Texas than any other week, and I think because it's easier for everybody to get on the same schedule and all that fun stuff. And so you will see games that featuring Texas versus the world, as we call it, and I've mentioned this. We are unabashed, unapologetic, horrifyingly homerific Texas high school football homers.
Yeah. There's no question.
This is something. Yeah. This is a title I give myself freely and proudly.
It's TexasFootball.com. It's Dave Campbell's Texas Football.
Right.
We have no interest in your teams from out of state.
No, we really don't.
They're purely a sideshow.
But I've also mentioned that I firmly believe that what sets Texas high school football apart is the depth. The depth in coaching, the depth in players, the depth in teams. Mm-hmm. So it is not a surprise for me when one of the best teams in Texas goes and plays one of the best teams from, let's say, California and loses. That's not a surprise to me because I think that from on the top end, I think that the best team in Alabama is probably as good as the best team in Texas or the best team in Connecticut or the best team in certain
Ohio.
states. Ohio.
I wouldn't include Connecticut.
Maybe Connecticut.
Maybe Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Georgia.
Yeah.
The states you expect.
Yeah, the football states.
Yeah.
So that's for me. That's how I want to start this. Is that there's not a. I think that if you took the top 5 teams and took top 5 teams from Texas, top 5 teams from Nevada, and you had a tournament, I think it'd be a really good tournament.
I would agree.
But give me teams 6 through 30 against from Nevada against teams 6 through 30 from Texas.
Bloodbath.
Destruction.
Bloodbath.
Utter destruction. Yeah. That's where I think that the advantage for Texas comes in. Is that I think the first best team is probably as good.
Yeah.
But the 20th best team would mop the floor with teams from other states.
Right. I mean, the perfect example last year, right? Euless Trinity.
Yeah.
They beat De La Salle at the beginning of the season, and they're out in the first round, second round?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They lost in the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah, lost to at home, So that's a perfect example of the grind that you have to go through to win a state championship in Texas. That's not to say that there isn't good high school football elsewhere. It's just to say that there's more of it here. That's all I'm saying. So if you look at the statistics, or first and foremost, let's take a look at some of these.
Take a look at
we'll take a look at some of these notable Week 1 Texas versus the world games.
Right.
The big one that everybody's going to have their eye on is Cedar Hill and Bishop Gorman.
Heck yeah.
Bishop Gorman, of course, has what's his butt? He decommitted.
Tate Martell.
Tate Martell.
You never can remember his name.
I never can. And you know what? That's okay.
He's not coming to a Texas team anymore, so what do you care?
Don't care.
Yeah.
But Tate Martell is the signal caller for Bishop Gorman, the real Nevada powerhouse, the Las Vegas powerhouse, taking on a Cedar Hill team that we have predicted to win a state championship. Or at least, I think we have them winning a state championship.
Yeah.
This is a very intriguing matchup. You've got Allen. I don't think they need really any introduction. We have some questions about Allen, I think, for the first time in like 5 years.
Right.
But, Allen is Allen, and they're taking on Hoover out of Alabama, Hoover,
most storied program in Alabama.
Yeah, they would probably. I mean, that's the most storied program in Alabama, and didn't they had a show? Didn't they?
Yes, like on MTV or something like that.
On
One of those.
MTV?
Yeah.
MTV's still
a reality
around, huh?
show following them. Yeah, I know, right? No music videos though. And obviously the thing here, I'm sure Hoover is very good, and they very may well beat Allen.
One spread.
But holy enrollment difference.
Yeah.
I mean, few teams in Texas can hang with Allen, so I think that'll be just the sheer size, the numbers, when Hoover lines up and goes, oh, there's a lot of huge guys here.
Two big-time DFW versus Tulsa area teams, as Euless Trinity takes on Broken Arrow and South Lake Carroll takes on Tulsa Union.
Yeah.
As a former staffer, or I guess staffer, I worked at the Tulsa World twice.
Twice.
So I know a little bit about.
You can say that.
I know.
Twice.
I know a little bit about Tulsa area high school football, and I
Right.
can tell you that Tulsa Union is they're the team that wins it every year. It's
Katy.
them.
They're the
Katy.
Katy.
They're the Katy.
They're the story.
They're there every
program.
year.
Yeah.
And then Broken Arrow is another squad that is always in the hunt.
Right.
So these are those are two of the best. It's Union, and then there's another Tulsa. Jinx, that's it. Thank
Is
you.
the other one.
Broken Arrow, Tulsa Union, and Jinx are the three big Tulsa area,
Right.
and arguably the three best teams in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Taking on Euless Trinity for Broken Arrow and South Lake Carroll for Tulsa Union. Colleen Shoemaker is going to take on Nuevo Leon out of Mexico. This is we see Nuevo Leon
They come up
pop
every year.
every
Yeah.
year. Interesting story about them. They are actually a college team, basically.
Right.
They are 19 and 20-year-olds. Because I remember 3 years ago when they beat Stephenville.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Stephenville, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And was it Nuevo Leon? It might have been one of the other teams, but they're all the same. And then people started diving into, like, who is this team? Well, they're basically a college team.
Right.
They're older and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Colleen Shoemaker will get their shot at Nuevo Leon. They'll probably win, but they always come up and they give them a good tussle. Right. This team is not to be pushed around. It's an actual matchup. In the private school ranks, two interesting ones. Dallas Parish Episcopal will play Little Rock McClellan out of Arkansas. I know nothing about them, not one thing.
Yeah, I don't know. What was the school that Malzahn coached at? Do you know?
No.
I don't think it was McClellan, though.
But Little Rock, a powerhouse from Little Rock. Houston State Pies will take on Las Vegas Faith Lutheran out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And then this is another game. Last year, Panama City Bay High School out of Florida ended up beating Viter. And this year they will draw Port Arthur Memorial.
A little bit different.
So a number of notable Texas versus the world games.
Right.
If you are wondering, as I was, how Texas has fared, the answer is pretty well.
Right.
Now, I think that there's an important caveat to mention here, is that some of these teams, we mentioned that Ohio is a very good high school football state. Florida, California, these places. A lot of the things that go into these raw numbers are games that are against, shall we say, city or states that are not necessarily known for their high school football. A lot of games against New Mexico. New Mexico is not known as this haven.
Right.
A lot of games against Oklahoma, and not necessarily the Jinx, the Unions, and the Broken Arrows, as we mentioned. So take all these with a grain of salt. But last year, Texas played teams from outside the state a grand total of, as I get my calculator out, 138 times.
Okay.
And they won 86 of them. 86 and 52.
Pretty good.
That was last year. And you're thinking, okay, well, maybe that's a 1 year thing. It is not. That is not the exception. That is the rule. They won 61-47. Texas won 61-47 in 2014. In 2013, it was 76-45. In 2012, it is 86-43. In 2011, it was 61-45, and in 2010, it was 61-34. This is a common theme.
Yeah.
That the numbers indicate that Texas teams, when they play teams from outside of Texas, win most of the time. Now, there is, I think, a reasonable criticism from schools from outside the state that will say, oh, well, why do we have to come to you?
Sure.
Why don't you go play there?
Yeah.
Because that's true. It is not a true home and home.
Right.
There are probably, I would say, 70 to 80%
are all here.
The games are played in Texas, which I think is reasonable.
Yeah.
There's a reasonable criticism. But at the same time, we got the crown. You
I
come
would
to
say,
us.
yeah, I would look. Okay, if you want to be completely haughty,
sure,
about
I
it,
would be.
and
I do.
And to be fair,
and
we
I
are
do, sir.
We are Texans. I get that part of it, but I would also say now you're not going to say the same thing about the Broken Arrows and the Jinx and the Unions of the world, but if you're going to play the big boys in Texas, the top 30, top 50 teams, they've got the stadiums to fit the crowd.
Yeah.
You're going to ask 12,000 people to drive up to someplace in Little Rock, Arkansas, or something like that. That's, it just becomes a bit more complicated because the crowds here are different than most places. Now, that's not the rule.
Sure.
There are definitely places in all of these states that hold big crowds, but not Texas crowds for the most part.
And here's another thing. Again, freely admitting that I am absolutely a homer.
Right. We are not
unbiased.
We are
here.
homers.
We are homers.
We're trying to be fair, but we also cannot be.
Yeah. It is not the dream of any player on Euless Trinity to go play in Washington. It may be the dream of players in Washington to come play in Texas.
Right.
See
what it's all about.
This is the Mecca, okay? Texas high school football is the standard.
Yeah.
And so, why wouldn't you want your kids to come and have that experience?
Yeah. And we talk to coaches all the time who have left, who came from other parts of the country but knew that this was the place where they wanted to coach eventually. Bob Wager at Arlington Martin is like the most classic story, but we've talked to coaches everywhere. I talked to a coach at THSA, Coach Hood, down in San Antonio, one of the private schools. These guys all come from other parts of the country, and they want to be a part of it. So it's not surprising, even for the coaches, not just the kids, the families. Yeah, it's a big ask.
Yeah.
You have to travel. But to say you played at Allen's Stadium, or to say you played at the Star, which will be a new thing, or Cowboys Stadium, these are big deals. These kids may never get another chance to do that. And so I totally get that part of it.
And here's the other thing about it, okay? To the crowd who would say, oh, well, Texas teams don't travel to play it. All right.
Yeah.
I don't think – let's put it this way. Last year, Texas teams had won 62% of the games.
Yeah.
If you want to say that 5% of the games would go differently at a different venue, I'm willing to hear that argument, but not 12%. That's a bridge too far for me. So it's interesting. We're certainly going to keep our eye on it to see how these teams fare in the first week of Texas high school football. It should be fun. I'm sure that. And here's the other thing. I promise you we'll move on to other things, but
we don't have to.
Oh, I guess we don't. Here's the other thing about it. Yeah, the other thing about it is when inevitably, there are too many good teams that are there are too many teams that are playing good teams from around the nation. Okay. You mentioned Hoover. You mentioned Bishop Gorman. You mentioned Broken Arrow, Tulsa.
Right.
Tulsa Union. There are too many teams playing too many other good teams from outside of the state of Texas. Inevitably, when of those 5 big games, let's say, when Texas goes 4-1, that one is going to be chirping. Yeah. Chirping. Oh, we took down Big Bad Texas.
To be fair, you earned it.
Good for you. Yeah. Good for you. You know what? As I hope we have established, I respect high school football in other states. I'm just saying that from a depth perspective, there's no beating Texas.
Right.